Welcome to the MLM Solution Podcast Show, where you'll learn the facts and hear the truth about the network marketing industry. Here's your hosts, Rob Coody and Marie Cannon.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marie Cannon. Welcome to the MLM Solution. It is Friday, September 24th, 2021. And as you notice, I am on my own once again today. Rob has been off this week, so I have been trying to hold down the fort here on my own. And of course, being Friday, we are at Freelance Friday, and we're doing episode number 72. I have been around for most of those Freelance Friday episodes. They're a lot of fun. For some reason, they seem to be our most popular episodes. I'm not sure how popular this one will be with me all by my lonesome, but I guess we'll find out. We'll see what we have in store to talk about here today. But before I dive into anything of substance, if you don't mind, I would like to remind you, please visit our website, themlmsolution.net. That's themlmsolution.net. You can find links to previous podcasts there. You can find all the products we have available. You can find links to our beta testing opportunity for our lead site. You can find a link to our upcoming live event so you can register for notifications there. Anything and everything related to the MLM Solution, you can find at themlmsolution.net. And then, of course, our social media platforms, you can find us all over the interwebs using hashtag the MLM Solution. That's hashtag the MLM Solution. And while you're there, if you would please like, comment, share across those social media platforms. We always appreciate that engagement and the exposure to other folks who may benefit from the information we share. And then please go subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Again, you can find us using hashtag the MLM Solution and register for notifications there. You can click that little bell twice. That will let you know when we upload new content or when we're live, and you can join us live and in person there. And then, of course, give us a thumbs up. If you like what you hear, you understand the points we're making, that interactive interaction is always helpful for us, and we do very much appreciate that. So, being a Freelance Friday, we typically talk about anything and everything under the sun. I didn't really plan for a topic in particular because I've been holding the fort on my own this week, so I think it just lends itself to the most obvious topic, and that is doing things that make you really uncomfortable. This right here, right now, all by myself. This is not the most comfortable thing in the world. As a matter of fact, I want to say it was, when was it? March, April of last year, 2020 maybe, when Rob had first contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in co-hosting this podcast with him. I was kind of excited by the offer because I've always admired Rob. He's been, in the industry for a long time. He has a great deal of knowledge. He has a tremendous number of contacts. Like, he's been around some of the biggest names in the industry, which I think is super cool. I've gotten to interact with a couple here and there myself, but not on the scale that Rob has. So that was exciting to me. But at the same time, I got to thinking, hey, you want me to do a podcast? I don't know anything about doing a podcast. I don't know that I'd be good at doing a podcast. I'm not sure exactly how they work or any of that kind of stuff. And then lo and behold, here we are, a little over a year later, and I'm doing the podcast all by my lonesome, which is super uncomfortable. I know I remember when I first started doing the podcast with Rob, he'd let me know what the topics were, and I'd spend a bunch of time thinking about what we should talk about and some of the points I wanted to make and all those types of things. And then if you've been joining us recently, over the past couple months, especially. I know Rob's Rob's mentioned on a couple of occasions the fact that we don't talk a whole lot outside of the show itself. Obviously, we do a little bit when we need to do things like planning for our live event. That's been involving a little bit more communication and conversation around those types of things. But the podcast episodes themselves, it's pretty much we come up with the episode ideas based on conversations we're having during the podcast during the week. Usually things will come up and it's just like, oh, we'll touch on something and we can't really dive deep into it because we try to keep these podcasts around the 30-minute mark because we want to provide you good value in a short amount of time. So to keep things to around 30 minutes, we can't deep dive into everything we touch on. So some of the things that we haven't had an opportunity to talk more about, we actually put on a little list and make it a future podcast show itself. So we'll come up with that list for the week so we can kind of have in our heads what the upcoming week looks like. So for instance, today's Friday. So over the weekend, I'll put together the list for next week, Monday through Friday episodes. Well, Friday doesn't really get a topic because it's freelance and we just make things up as we go along. But I'll put together the Monday through Thursday topics, and then we get online together on Monday morning and we might chat a little bit before we go live if we have some time, just catch up on the weekend, whatever. But then once we go live, we're just like take off and talk about the topic. Now, having someone to interact with on the podcast and have it be more of a conversation rather than a monologue like what I'm doing now is so much easier. You have no idea. I mean, talking just into a microphone, just talking into a camera, kind of by myself. I mean, I try to visualize you guys out there and listening to this, whatever you may be doing. And it gets a little difficult because every once in a while I just feel like I'm talking to the ether, talking to myself. Am I even making sense? I don't even have anybody to check me and say, Marie, guys, let's get back on track here. It's like, what in the world are you talking about? Get with it. So it's been an interesting experience to do this, and it just kind of highlights for me the fact that anytime we're going to experience any type of growth, there's going to be a whole lot of discomfort involved with it. I'm sure if you were to go back and look at some of the videos from the podcast episodes from a year ago, early on when Rob and I first started working together, I'm sure I seemed much more awkward and the interactions were a little off. It takes a little while to hit your stride and really start kind of gelling and having that conversational aspect take place. So I'm sure you can see a large difference between, the podcasts we did a year ago and the ones we've been doing recently. I think they flow much better. They're much better organized. I mean, there's just all sorts of stuff. It's all about continuous improvement, right? So obviously when I first started doing the podcast, that was uncomfortable. Well, I've gotten plenty comfortable doing these podcasts now with Rob, but this past week, having Rob gone and having to do these podcasts by myself has been a whole nother level of discomfort because it's not only the time on the camera, but it's some of the prep, some of the stuff like the little, ticker lines that go by, making sure the podcast stuff gets set up correctly so it posts to all the social media places and every place else it's supposed to go correctly. And that it's just like, it's crazy. It's been a little bit of a learning curve. And then of course it's just purely the sitting here doing the podcast by myself. I am sure the last week, if you've been listening along, you're like, man, girl, this is rough. And yes, it absolutely has been. It hasn't. It's not anything I'd want out on the internet forever. Oh, wait, it is. I'm in trouble. Anyway, someday these things are going to come back and bite me in the butt in one form or another. I just know they are. But my point being is anything we do it's always, it's new. It seems hard, but it's not necessarily hard or difficult. It's just new. You're not used to doing it. It's uncomfortable. Um, you don't feel like you're in a mode, and it's one of those things that I think as adults we lose we lose the ability to be willing to try new things to a certain extent because sorry, got the dry throat thing going on again here today. Weather's changing. It's turning to fall, right? The weather's getting cooler. The windows have been open, and I don't know if I've got a little bit of an allergy thing going on or what, or if we still got, smoke coming over from California wildfires. Although I have to admit it's been pretty clear the last couple days, so hopefully that's over with. But for whatever reason, dry throat thing and the constant talking by myself doesn't help. So anyhow, but what I was going to say is I think as we get older and as adults, we lose the ability that we had as kids to just decide to do things. Like we'll just do it. Well, that looks like fun. I'm just going to go do that. Or that could be interesting. I'm going to go try that. The podcast. I'm going to go do this by myself. I was like, I can do it. Kids, I think, don't care as much because it's just they're going to try it and do it, and maybe they're going to suck at it and maybe they'll be good at it, but it looks like fun, so let's go find out if it is or not, and then they decide whether or not they want to keep doing it. And as you keep doing things, of course, it's that idea of kind of practice makes perfect, although I don't think that's really a truism. But as you do things over and over, you get better at them, right? And I think as adults, we get into a rut where we know the things that we're really good at. We've been in our career for a period of time. We've had enough relationships that we know how to interact with people. We've tried different hobbies, arts, crafts, sports, whatever. We know the things we like to do. And as we get older, our time becomes a little bit more limited. There's a lot more demands on our time. So our free time tends not to be as plentiful to go out and try different things. We want to spend our free time doing the things we already like rather than necessarily trying something new, because there's that whole thought of, well, I may not be good at it. I'm going to look silly. I don't want to spend the time trying that. It's like, no, I'm just going to assume I don't like it. And sometimes you just don't know until you try. Sometimes you find things by accident that you're actually good at. And sometimes you find out you're not good at something, but you develop the desire to be good at it. So you're willing to invest the time and become better at it. So I don't know if that makes sense or I'm just rambling away, but hey, I'm going to blame it all on Freelance Friday. We don't have to talk about anything in particular, right? But this was just what I decided to talk about. So I don't know that I would ever do my own podcast. Like, I don't know if I'm sure you follow other podcasts. Most people, if you're listening or following one podcast, there's a few you follow or you catch episodes here and there or whatever. But there are so many people doing podcasts now. It's an interesting way to create community, to convey information. I don't know that I'd ever do one by myself. I suppose I could get used to doing this, conversation with you by myself, alone, talking to myself over time and get better at it, but maybe not. So I don't know. It's been an interesting experience. This week has been a really unique experience, and there's this little part of me that thinks this might have been a kind of test that Rob has set up to see how I do. One, to see if I do it, and two, to see how I do. So the if I do, I'll say yes. It's kind of like when he initially asked me to join him and co-host the podcast. I was like, well, I don't really have any reason to say no. It's information that I'm passionate about. It's an arena I love to be engaged in. I've been a fan of network marketing, the multi-level marketing industry for decades, long time, since I was a kid even. I just think it's really neat, and I love to be an advocate for it, and I love to encourage people to give it a try, to do it well, to become successful at it. As you'll often hear me say, is I still think the network marketing industry offers the best opportunity for the average person to make a better than average income. I really do. There are so many barriers and hurdles to a lot of careers, or moving up the ladder in a lot of careers, that the network marketing industry you don't have to deal with. And the fact that it's very merit driven, the fact that anything you get, you're going to earn it. You're going to work for it. This isn't a lottery. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not, so easy that anybody can do it. That none of that's true. It takes work, it takes knowledge, it takes dedication, and it takes a lot of self-motivation to do. So it's fun. So there was no reason for me to not do it. I mean, I could have made excuses. I'm busy like everybody else. It was going to be something added, something new, something I hadn't, even remotely considered on my own. So when he asked me to co-host, I said yes. And when he asked me to do this week's episodes on my own, there was a bit of hesitation there, but ultimately, yes, why not? I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, the worst thing that could happen would probably be doing an episode with my mic muted, like having this be online for 30 minutes and having no sound come through. That was my biggest nightmare. So far we're on the 5th day of this, and the microphone's on. As far as I can tell, everything's working. I haven't gotten any feedback from anyone saying can't hear you. So I assume my worst nightmare has not come to fruition, and will be okay. Has this been, great? Am I going to win an Emmy for it? No, probably not. And will Rob ever ask me to do it again? That remains to be seen. I really don't know. But I've actually enjoyed doing this. I love providing this information. I love having the opportunity to help you be better within this career, to help you achieve your dreams and goals. And I hope you find the information that we provide here helpful. So with that said, being Friday and the fact that it's Freelance Friday, I'm ready for the weekend. I think you probably are too. So let me just pull up here. Let's see. What are we doing Monday? Monday, our topic for our podcast show is going to be the gift of good enough. If you're wondering what that means, I'm not even going to give you a teaser. I'm just going to leave it at the topic, and you'll have to join us on Monday. Let's see, what is that? Monday is going to be September 27th. We're heading into the last week of September. Oh my goodness. Monday morning, we're going to be talking about the gift of good enough. That's going to be at 11 a.m. Eastern time on all of our usual places. So I'm going to encourage you to join us then. In the meantime, have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you Monday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. Download our podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast platforms. Visit our website at www.themlmsolution.net for additional important information, show details, and past shows. Follow us on Parler, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button, or the get notified button while visiting our other social media platforms.